welcome back to another video. So today I decided to do something a little bit different. I wanted to color in a coloring book with the most expensive pencils and the cheapest colored pencils. So I have my Luminance colored pencils and my Crayola colored pencils, and I've got Maria Trolle's Botanicum coloring book, and I've chosen a page in the coloring book and I have matched up or tried to match up the best I could with the colors from one pencil set to the other. I'm going to color a couple leaves. As I'm coloring, it will probably be a little bit of a tutorial, as all my videos are. But I really just want to be able to test out how the pencils lay down on the paper in the coloring book. And I really love the Maria Trolle coloring books for the paper. These books tend to work well with most colored pencils, so I decided to go ahead and use this book. If you check the description box below, you will find links down there for my Facebook group. I would love to have you join us over there. I will also have a link down there to my email list, my Etsy store where I have my color combination and blending tutorial workbook, as well as my email list and my Patreon if you would like to support me over there. Okay, so I have grabbed both of my color swatch charts for each set of these pencils. It was a little bit difficult to match the colored pencils up exactly, because here with the Crayolas, I have 120 colors to choose from. And then the Luminance colored pencils, they only have 76 colors, so my choices of greens were a little bit limited. Of course, if I flip this over, I also have the portrait set, but for the portrait set, these were the only two greens that I had, and of course neither one of these match up to anything in the Crayola set. So it was a little bit difficult to match up the colors, and I am a little bit worried about the transition between the colors on the Crayolas because they are a much cheaper pencil, and so trying to transition from one color to the other is usually a little bit more difficult. Of course it can be done. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the colors here that I have chosen. For the Luminance set, I chose 3 different colors. And then for the Crayola set, I have 4 colors because I have a feeling that I am going to need the extra color just to be able to transition between the 2 colors, but I am really not sure yet. We're going to see what happens. So for the Luminance set, I have dark English green, which is right here. And then I have grass green, which is right here. So I'm using these 2. This one has a little bit of blue in it. And then for the other, or my third color, my highlight color, I am switching way down here to the spring green. Now, in any other situation or most situations, I would definitely choose a color to go in between these 2 colors here. And I was even thinking to get really, really creative. I could have added this olive yellow in here in between the grass green and the spring green, and that would have been really, really beautiful on a leaf and really made it stand out. But since I'm trying to do this one pencil set against the other, I'm trying to make them look as much the same as I possibly can. So I don't know if I'm going to have to grab another color to add it in there or not. And then for the Crayola set, like I said, I've got 4 colors here and they match up pretty well. So for my first color, I have the pine green. Here is the pine green, and here is that dark English green. So they are definitely pretty close. This one looks like it might be a little bit darker. And then I also have green, which is right here, and that was the closest match to grass green, so we're going to use those 2. So then we come down here and I have this lime green, and that one is right here, this darker color here, or what looks to be like it may be a darker color, but it is actually very, very light. So this is the tip of the pencil and what it looks like. But according to my swatch chart, when I lay it down on the paper, it actually looks like this. So it looks nothing like the tip of the pencil or the barrel of the pencil. When I pulled out my Crayolas and I started looking through them, I found this palm leaf here. So I went ahead and grabbed that, and this is actually darker than the lime green. It does not look that way when you look at the pencils. So this one here is the lime green, which is lighter, and then this one here is the palm leaf, which is actually a little bit darker than the lime green. This one looks much, much brighter. So after coming back and looking at this a second time, I noticed that the palm leaf is actually much closer to the spring green. So since I'm using the spring green, I'm going to go ahead and try to use the palm leaf. At first, I had matched up this lime green, and it looks close, but this color has a lot more yellow in it. So I decided I'm going to go ahead and go with the palm leaf, and I think that is the one I'm going to start with. I don't know if I'm going to need another color for the highlight color or what, but I think that this is going to be the closest match. So this is where we're going to start. I'm going to put aside the lime green that I had originally chosen, and I think I'm going to start with the palm leaf, and we'll see where we get with that. Okay, so this is the page I decided to go with, and I chose it because you can see we've got lots of leaves here. And I decided that I'm going to color these two leaves here because they look very, very similar, and so I can lay the colors down from each different set in a much similar way to make them look as much the same as I possibly can. And as I color each one of the leaves, I'm just going to sort of talk my way through it or kind of describe exactly how they feel going down on the paper, and I'll talk about exactly what I'm doing and everything. So it'll sort of be kind of a tutorial, and at the same time we are testing the cheapest pencils against the most expensive pencils. I'm going to use my Crayolas on this leaf, and I'm going to use my Luminance on this leaf here. And I am going to lay the color down. So I'm going to lay my highlight down first in the places I want it. Then I'm going to come back with my Luminance and lay the highlight down where I want it on this leaf. And I think I'm going to alternate and sort of go back and forth. And I may speed parts of this up. So let's go ahead and take my palm leaf from the Crayola. And I'm just going to put a little bit of highlight color down through here. And then I'm going to switch to my matching color in the Luminance set, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing. And you can see that the Luminance are laying down a lot more pigment right from the beginning. The colors look similar, but with the Crayolas, I'm going to need to apply a little bit more color down on the paper. And I'm going to use very light layers because we don't want to fill the tooth of the paper yet. But you can see that it takes a little bit more to get the pigment down on there, but not much. That is what the highlight looks like on both of these. And when I lay the Luminance down, the difference in the way they feel, the Crayolas are much harder, and they feel much harder as I lay them down. And the Luminance, I don't know any other way to explain it, but they feel like they are a little bit chalkier. They have a more chalky feel, if that makes sense. So let me come back with my mid-tone now. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to lay down some of this and just sort of blend this color right here into the highlighted area. And you can see with the Luminance, it just sort of goes right over the highlight or wherever I laid that highlighted color, and it blends right in with ease. Here I'm going to lay some of this, and I may want just a little bit of a highlight, so I'm going to come back and lay a little bit of highlight right here in this area. And you could see with the Luminance that the colors very easily just blend together right into one another. And then I'm going to grab my mid-tone from the Crayola set, and I'm going to lay this in the same exact places as I just did with the Luminance. And these are actually going down very nicely. But if y'all have watched my videos for quite some time, y'all know that I love Crayola. I really, really love these pencils. And look how they are laying down and blending right into that highlight. And they're pretty much doing the same thing with ease as the Luminance did. They just feel like they are a little bit harder. But I'm getting the same pigment laydown as I did with the very expensive pencils. Let me go ahead and fill some of this color in here with the highlight and try to keep it consistent to what I did at the top. So I'm laying down my Crayola or the palm leaf from the Crayola set. And then I'm going to come back with the, what was this, green, just green. So no creative name there. And this is just blending right into the other colors. Look at that. And I don't want too much of a highlight down here because this one is sort of, I don't know, it's turned up, but I want to put some of my darker colors down here. And look how beautiful these lay down. And they're so cheap. When it comes to these pencils and the differences, we all know that we pay a whole lot of money for Luminance because they are a light fast pencil. And if you're not sure what light fast means, it just means how long they are going to withstand to the lighting over time. So if I come back to this page in years from now and I look at it, the Crayolas are most likely going to be faded. And the Luminance, they are still going to look the same as they did on day one, as they do in 10 years from now. At least they're supposed to. And that's why they're so expensive. But let's go ahead and we are going to use our darkest color. So I've got my darkest color in my Crayola. Let's go ahead and start with the Crayolas first. But I'm laying this color right over that mid-tone. Look how nicely these go down. Now they do go down very nicely and the colors blend beautifully, even though they are a much cheaper pencil. And y'all, these are worth it. Like, you could get these for so cheap. I think the whole thing, even around Christmas time, there was a deal. I had actually posted on my Facebook group because they had dropped to, I think, like $19.50 or something like that for the whole 120 set, which is a fantastic deal. But even normally, they're like $25 or so for 120 pencils. And some of the colors that you're going to get in this set are much different than any other set you could ever purchase. There is a color in here called Atomic Tangerine, which is my absolute favorite color. It's just a very bright, beautiful, vibrant orange color, and it just pops. Or paying the money for the set is totally worth it just for that color. At least I think so. Okay, so now we're going to come back and work on the Luminance one. And so I've got my darkest color here. This was dark English green. And yeah, the difference is these feel softer and they just feel chalkier when they lay down. You could probably, if you're listening really closely, you could probably hear the way that they sound. I don't know that this is actually the best paper for these pencils. They work beautifully in some of my other coloring books. I've used these in the Flower and Gems coloring book, and they are just amazing in that book. But see, I'm already looking at this and thinking that I'm going to need other colors to make these leaves really look the way that I want them to look. Okay, so I am just filling in a little bit more of the mid-tone now, and I'm trying to just add some more layers to really get that color down on the paper. And I'm using a really light hand as I lay these layers down. And I'm just going to keep doing the same thing with both of these. So I'm going to go ahead and speed this up just a little. Okay, so I'm thinking that I'm going to have to come back and maybe use a little bit of gray for some shadows and such, because these are not looking exactly the way that I want them to look. I'm going to go ahead and come back and I'm going to finish out this Crayola one, and then I'm going to see what I could do about adding more shadows and making it look a lot more like it is just popping off the page. So let me come back and I'm going to set this to music as I go through here and do the same thing on the Crayola leaf. leaves are done, and I think I've laid probably a few more layers down here on the Crayola leaf. And of course, that's because they're a much cheaper pencil. And if I look at the two of these, I can surely tell that the one that I did with the Luminance, I used less layers, and the colors are a little bit more vibrant than they are here with the Crayolas. But I mean, if you're looking at them at a distance and you were looking at somebody's coloring page, I don't feel like you would even be able to tell the difference from one pencil to the other. And I'm going to go ahead and test something else out. I'm going to grab some grays and try to add some more shadows on both of these. I'm going to choose some grays from my Luminance set, and I'm going to choose some grays from the Crayola. Okay, so here are the grays on my Crayola swatch chart. And for those of you that don't know, when you are coloring with cool colors, you want to go with cool grays. And when you're coloring with warm colors, you want to go with warm grays. Green is a cool color. Greens and blues and colors like that, those are cool colors. And then your reds and your oranges and your yellows, those are warm colors. So we need a cool gray, and we want one that is dark enough. And we don't really have that many choices here. This is a cooler gray. And then we've got black, and then we've got this cool gray here. I'm gonna go ahead and grab ash and the one called cool gray. And then here I have my Caran d'Ache swatch chart. And the colors that I chose are this Payne's Gray 30%, and then this Payne's Gray 60%. If you look at those, you can tell that they have a lot of blue in them. So we're gonna go with those two. So I'm gonna start on my Luminance leaf first. And I'm going to go lighter first. So I'm going to use the Payne's Gray, what was it, 30%? Yeah, Payne's Gray 30%. And I'm going to see what I could come up with here just to darken up some of these shadows. So that one's not working very well. So we're going to go with the Payne's Gray 60%. Always start with your lighter gray. When you're using grays to create shadows, always start with the lighter one and see how well it works, because it's always better to start lighter and then come back in with your darker if it doesn't work. And of course, this is working really well with the Luminance. And in a minute, we'll see what happens when we try the same thing with the Crayola, but I think that this is working really well, and it's making it look a little bit more three-dimensional. Okay, so that made quite a bit of a difference, and I'm going to go ahead and blend some of that color in just a little bit. So I grabbed what was my darkest, the dark English green, and I'm just going to blend some of that gray out where I put it down here. But you could see with these that the color is still laying down on this paper. So I still have quite a bit of the tooth of the paper left on this one because the layers went down with much lighter pressure. And so if I wanted to lay more layers down with this one and make it look even more vibrant and change it up a little bit, or even lay the lighter colors over the darker colors, I could still come back and do all of that if I wanted to continue working on this leaf. And then I'm going to blend in some of that highlight color just a little bit more, but you can see how this color, or how the Luminance pencils, they just spread around and blend into one another absolutely beautifully. And if I want to lay this highlight color on top of the darker color and change the color up just a little bit, it works beautifully as well. Now we are going to come down and we're going to try the same thing here on the Crayola leaf. So I've got two different grays, and look at this. See, this is what I mean when I say you cannot depend on what the barrel looks like, because this is a cool gray, but the barrel looks like it's blue. So we've got this cool gray, and then we got this cool gray, and oh my gosh, which was the darker one? The ash was the darker one. So I think I'm going to try this one first, just like I did on the other. And I see a difference, but I don't think I see enough of a difference. So we're just going to go straight to the darker color. And we're really going to try to change this one up and see what happens here. And I'm going to go ahead and speed this up to music. leaves are done. This one is the Crayola Luminance and this one is the Crayola. If you look at them from afar, they both look really, really good. But if I look at them very, very close up, I could see here that the Crayola, the mid-tone and the highlight color, just as I thought earlier, did not blend together completely seamlessly the way that I would want it to. And I didn't want to bring in any blender pencils or anything like that because I really want to be able to make this very fair. And I didn't use the blender pencil with the luminance. But if you look at the luminance just blended together beautifully. All the colors just go right into the other colors, the highlights into the midtones. I was able to apply that gray right over, and it really intensified the darkness of the darker areas. And with this one here, I was also able to take the gray and lay the gray right over the darker areas to create more intense shadows. And I tried to lay the colors in the exact same places on both leaves, but if I had to pick which one I liked better, I do really like the Luminance one better. I don't feel like this is the perfect paper for the Luminance pencils, but I do feel like the Crayola went down really well on the paper in this book. But I feel like if I had more tooth left to the paper, I could really improve upon the Crayola one and give it a whole lot more depth, but there's just no tooth to the paper left for the Crayola leaf. And if I wanted to continue and keep coming back with the Caran d'Ache Luminance pencils, I could probably apply more and more layers, and I could really do a whole lot more to that leaf as well, because the layers were still going. And that's because I had to use harder pressure with the Crayola, because they get to a point where you just really cannot get any more color down onto the page and really intensify that color unless you're using a little bit harder pressure. And the same thing does not happen with the Luminance. With the Luminance, you could lay down light layers and just keep laying them down. And that's the benefit, of course, of having artist grade pencils. But it's always really fun to have our Crayolas too, and the colors in each one of these sets vary greatly. And with the Crayola, of course, you're getting 120 pencils, and like I said earlier, you're getting that atomic tangerine color. If you've not seen that video that I did where I used the atomic tangerine in, I think it was Maria Trolle's, I think it was in the Nightfall book, but I'll link that in the upper right hand corner. I colored a butterfly, and oh my gosh, it turned out so beautiful. So I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, everything you've seen in this video, I'll link it in the description box below, and I will see you in the next one. Happy coloring. Bye.